Alright, everybody, welcome back to the 2014 Pokemon Video Game Regional Championships here in Seattle, Washington. The next matchup we got for you, we have Tony Cheung, also known as Chinese Dude, versus Jason Winya, also known as our beloved Arti. Other matchups that we got going right now, we got Max Douglas, Star Metroid versus John Rust, Ben DeMayan versus Thomas Mifflin, PBB, and Randy Qua, who we saw advance earlier, versus Braden Smith, known as Dope Alien.
Yeah, here in the quarterfinals, we're watching one of our two all-Canadian matches. A majority of the players left in the last 8 are Canadian. It's an impressive showing from Canada in this Northwest Regional.
Right. Northwest has always been known as kind of an easier regional, but right now it was a pretty tough day for anybody that was playing. 8 rounds, 250 players showed
250 players is a lot. That's the biggest one of the day. And definitely a difficult regional with lots of skilled players.
A lot of the Southern California players who invaded this regional in the early Swiss rounds have actually been knocked out. Gavin, the King of Mars, knocked out. Mike Selesky, first seed, undefeated in Swiss, was knocked out by Max Douglas, Star Metroid.
Thomas Mifflin is still representing SoCal, though. And
Thomas Mifflin.
We're going to steal it from Canada here.
Yep. Both players right now about to get underway. Both players were on. Chinese Dude was not on stream earlier.
No, we did see Jason Winya.
We did see Jason Winya earlier on stream.
Very interesting team with Manectric and Lantern. I'm excited to see how this matchup's going to be because both players are playing very non-standard teams.
Bottom screen. So, players now about to make their selection here in team preview. On top, Tony Cheung with Gengar, Scizor, Gyarados, Staraptor, Rotom Heat, and Raichu, with Arti having Talonflame, Lantern, Manectric, Salamence, Ferrothorn, Azumarill. Thing that stand out to me right away, that Lantern.
That Lantern, but also that Raichu. As you can quickly tell with a Lantern and a Manectric that Jason is wanting to use Electric a lot, and Raichu is immune and gets special attack boosts from any electric attacks. So, interestingly enough, a Raichu is going to be a very powerful Pokemon for Tony here.
Right. Staraptor also not that popular, but it's actually really, pretty good Pokemon. I used that today.
I did. I used it as an interesting move called Final Gambit, where it knocks itself out and deals the amount of HP it had remaining to the target. Staraptor has fairly high HP, and so it can actually knock out most Pokemon if it gets off Final Gambit before taking any damage.
Tony Cheung, of course, the one and only Canadian national champion before having that national championship removed, he won Canadian Nationals with Gyarados.
Did
he? He is now using Gyarados again, yes.
Yeah. Gyarados, a consistent Pokemon, very strong, and every year it's legal in, and no surprises to see it here again today. Probably Megas are easy to see for both teams here. Mega Manectric for Jason, and a Mega Gengar for Tony.
All right, back to the action. Both players now getting underway. Gengar, Raichu for Tony Cheung, and Manectric and Azumarill for Arti. Manectric and Azumarill versus Raichu. Raichu with Lightning Rod, of course.
Right, and so Manectric won't be able to use its electric attacks, while Raichu will be able to and use them potently against Azumarill. And Gengar also threatening super effective Sludge Bomb on Azumarill.
Yes, Azumarill picked up that fairy typing in between generations, which has increased its usage this generation with how good fairy typing is. Getting underway, Gengar now gonna Mega Evolve into Mega Gengar with the
very powerful ability Shadow Tag that won't allow Jason to switch anymore after this, and won't be able to Volt Switch either because of that Raichu.
Right, Raichu firing off Fake Out, a very unknown move for Raichu. Firing off the Fake Out onto Azumarill, making it flinch this turn, and Gengar firing off a Perish Song of its own. Manectric using Hidden Power onto the Raichu.
So definitely a very strong turn for Tony here. You can see Manectric was forced to use the weak, neutral Hidden Power that even became more weak since the last games. And now he only has 3 turns to deal with these Pokemon. I don't think he has Volt Switch, but even if he had it, he wouldn't be able to escape the Shadow Tag with it because of Raichu.
Right. One of the big things for Arti to look into right now is getting rid of that Raichu so that Manectric can have a bit more free reign on how he can use his electric moves.
Right. Raichu is not a very bulky Pokemon. Another hidden power, maybe an Aqua Jet, could quickly start to wear down on Raichu, but still, he only has the 3 turns for Perish Song in both these Pokemon, but the Shadow Tag's gone.
Right. Interesting move for Tony to switch out his Shadow Tag user into Staraptor, firing off Intimidates onto both Manectric and Azumarill. Manectric not minding it as much as the Azumarill. Raichu protecting itself this turn, and Staraptor is pretty protected by that Lightning Rod too.
Yeah, but if that Waterfall had gone to Staraptor, Final Gambit would immediately become an inviable play, and he's let Jason out of this the Shadow Tag. I really don't understand this play by Tony necessarily.
Maybe he's seeing from team view, his team is not heavily the niche called Perish Trapping, but maybe
if he's going to spin that first turn to get a Perish Song up, you would think he would want to protect it once it.
I mean, honestly, if you see that right now, you know Raichu is the bigger threat for Mega Gengar. Never thought I'd hear myself say that, but of course, already firing off attacks into Raichu's Protect, so Raichu is definitely one threat right there. And
Raichu's leaving to bring Gengar back in, reinstating the Shadow Tag. We'll see if Jason took advantage of his one turn to get his Pokemon out, and he at least did for Manectric.
Right, Manectric finally switching out into Ferrothorn right now, and it's Ferrothorn and Azumarill versus Staraptor and Mega Gengar. I've never actually seen this on the field. Brave Bird from Staraptor onto Ferrothorn, Iron Barb's hurting it, and a Rocky Helmet recoil, along with its own Brave Bird recoil, doing a fair amount of...
That was a U-turn, but
that was a U-turn.
That was entirely from the Rocky Helmet and Iron Barbs, and that will serve to weaken that Final Gambit a lot if Tony ever decides to use it.
Right. Sending back in Raichu.
Getting a chance for another Fake Out, and combined with this Shadow Tag, Azumarill is probably going to have to go down to this Perish Song.
Azumarill currently trapped right now, doing about 40% to Gengar as Raichu comes back in. Kind of sad that Tony was not able to keep the Manectric trapped, though.
Yeah, but Jason didn't take full advantage of the one-turn break from Shadow Tag and did keep his Azumarill locked, so half and half there.
Right. Both players now trying to make their decision. Azumarill Perish count to 1. Raichu with the Fake Out after just entering the field, and Gengar versus Ferrothorn. Steel typing losing its Ghost Resist was pretty big this generation.
Definitely, and Raichu goes for the Fake Out there, but it's going to do more damage to Raichu than it does to Ferrothorn by
with the Iron Barbs and the Rocky Helmet. About 50% right now for Raichu, and Aqua Jet from Azumarill onto Gengar, doing a bit of damage and firing off a Disable, trying to prevent a Waterfall from coming out. But
right, if that had been a Waterfall, it would have kept it from happening. I'm fairly confident Tony had the option to just double Protect there, which would have also killed Azumarill, and instead went for the Fake Out, dealing a lot of recoil, and took the Aqua Jet. But now he does have his Protects preserved for this next turn.
Right, Azumarill falling to the Perish Song. And right now, Ferrothorn versus Raichu and Gengar. Manectric coming in for the fallen Pokemon. And it's interesting, Artie's still trying to fight that Raichu with Manectric.
Yeah, it's interesting, he has not Mega Evolved his Manectric, you'll notice. So while Raichu is using its Lightning Rod to nerf Manectric, Manectric's using its Lightning Rod to do the same thing to Raichu. It's definitely having a bigger effect on Jason, but you can't ignore that Raichu also can't use his Thunderbolt.
Right. As we can see right now, Manectric not really benefiting from Mega Evolving to intimidate Raichu and Gengar, unless he wants to nerf some of that Fake Out damage, of course.
Yeah, that very minimal Fake Out damage.
Gengar being replaced right now for Rotom Heat, and Manectric finally Mega Evolving.
Giving up on stopping the Thunderbolt, it's not going to help. He's not going to want to Thunderbolt Ferrothorn anyway, so he might as well get the full bulk and power out of his Manectric.
Yes, that will boost the hidden power from Manectric onto the Raichu in case he does opt to do that. And Raichu protecting itself this turn,
yeah,
though.
See here, the play to not use his Protects to knock out Azumarill with Perish Song has allowed him to do them now, which will keep Ferrothorn from being able to hit Raichu.
Firing off a Discharge right now onto the field, and of course the downside of that is paralyzing his own Ferrothorn, but Ferrothorn's already pretty slow. The only thing that will make a minimal difference is going to be the paralysis chance.
Right, and Jason's revealed his way to get around Lightning Rod here. He can discharge Tony's other Pokemon even while Raichu's in the field, though it does power up Raichu.
Yes, but remember, Arti does have Lantern. Lantern with Volt Absorb. So
Soon
we'll see. Maybe we'll see Lantern. Maybe we won't. Ferrothorn protecting itself this turn does not want to eat that overheat from the Rotom H.
No, it would be an easy knockout for. An
Encore from Raichu onto Manectric.
It's gonna force more Lightning Rod boost for.
And Discharge firing off into the Lightning Rod. Right now, Raichu is at +2. Key thing to notice right now, Manectric went after Raichu.
So Raichu's actually only at +1. He protected himself from getting the Lightning Rod boost on the last turn. Oh, an interesting play, a substitute here, not a move you commonly see on Rotom.
Right, Rotom H setting up a sub this turn. Manectric firing off discharges onto Raichu. That's interesting to watch.
Yeah, for an immunity and a resist, it's probably something Jason's gonna want to switch out of to get out of this Encore. But forcing all these switches has definitely been to the benefit of Tony.
Substitute from Rotom. Of course, Rotom does not mind facing off against Manectric. As we've seen so far, Discharge and Hidden Power of some sort, probably Ice. Rotom resists both of them.
Yeah, and so with this sub up, neither Manectric or Ferrothorn is likely to even be able to break the sub of Rotom, which is going to really give Jason a hard time knocking it out and keeping it from getting an easy knockout on Ferrothorn.
Manectric now switching out for Salamence, firing off Intimidate onto Raichu, of course, not really caring about that since it's more of a special attacker. Raichu firing off an Encore onto Ferrothorn to continue its protecting series.
Yeah, this Encore's been very powerful, and Intimidate's a very important ability in this game because there are so many physical Pokemon that are very good right now.
It is a physical metagame.
But Tony is not using very many of them, and so that advantage of Intimidate is really not going to help much.
Right. Rotom Heat firing off the Will-O-Wisp onto Salamence, curing itself of its status with Lumberry. Important information for later on in the series.
You don't commonly see Lum Salamence since it is a special-based Pokemon. It doesn't fear the Will-O-Wisp as much as other Pokemon, so often it opts for a different item like Choice Scarf, Focus Sash, or Choice Specs.
Right. Even though right now it's 3-on-3, I feel as though Tony has a pretty solid lead.
Definitely.
In momentum,
this Rotom's going to really give a hard time to Jason. No matter what he does, it'll probably get a knockout.
Right now, Ferrothorn switching does not want to keep protecting in its place because of the Encore. Intimidate coming out from Manectric onto Raichu. Of course, again, not really caring too much. Protecting itself this turn. And Salamence firing off a Draco Meteor into a Protect, and Rotom discharging again?
With its own discharge. To give Lightning Rod boost to Raichu.
I have not seen this much discharge since 2009.
No, it's only been a long time since we've seen discharge this prevalently.
Both Pokemon firing off discharges. Not something I thought I'd say here in 2014.
But discharges on both sides of the field are going to quickly eat away at Salamence's health. And Manectric can't really do much else as long as Raichu's on the field. So.
Raichu firing off a Volt Switch onto these Salamence right now, bringing it down to about 25%. A little bit more than 25%, 30% probably.
Getting those Lightning Rod boosts and then immediately just running away with them and getting rid of them. But keeping Raichu healthy for later so that Jason still won't be able to get an electric attack off with his Manectric.
Raichu right now is probably the star player on Tony Chung's team as Hidden Power fired off onto Gengar and a Draco Meteor onto the Gengar. A little bit of gravy damage right there.
Yeah, definitely more than necessary.
And
it will bring Raichu right back in and with Fake Out reactivated. So.
Right, Fake Out paying dividends right now for Tony. Interesting Pokemon, interesting move selection, but it's clearly paying off right now.
Definitely.
Rotom H firing off a Will-O-Wisp onto Manectric, burning it, getting some extra chip damage in between turns as it continues to heal up behind its substitute.
Right, Tony is prioritizing using electric attacks and will probably want to knock out the Ferrothorn when it comes out, and so he doesn't want to have to spend an overheat to knock out Manectric, so this Will-O-Wisp can slowly do it while Manectric can't really do much back to Rotom.
Right now, Raichu coming in, last couple Pokemon right now for Tony with Raichu, Rotom, and what was he? We have not seen the fourth, yeah. Manectric, Salamence, and
We have
Ferrothorn.
Staraptor is the last
Staraptor,
Pokemon.
right, after the U-turn, right.
It's at about 75% health after taking some recoil from Iron Barbs, so...
Right, Tony playing a very good part right now to preserve his Staraptor for later on.
Right, but if he loses Raichu, that is the electric protection for Staraptor, so he does have to be careful.
Important thing to note also, Rotom H is also very necessary for the Ferrothorn.
Right, it's a key Pokemon all around on this in this matchup.
-2 special attack, Salamence right now firing off Dracometer, dropping his special attack even more. Raichu holding on in the red, and of course more discharge action as Raichu boosts his special attack, and Rotom Heat firing off another discharge, knocks out the Salamence, and does a bit of chip damage to Manectric. Doesn't really care too much about it, but the important thing right now is Manectric and Ferrothorn are out, and Ferrothorn is going to probably fall to that overheat really fast.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Jason to get through that sub and all of Rotom's health before allowing an overheat on Ferrothorn. And meanwhile, that burn damage will be slowly wearing away on Manectric. Even though Raichu is finally about to let down this electric guard it's had on the whole game, it probably won't be enough to bring this game back for Jason.
Right, Rotom Heat right now, hiding well behind that substitute with the leftovers recovery. Right now, I'd probably just say Jason should just pick up as much information as he possibly can and prepare for the next
Definitely,
games.
and try to figure out some way to break that Rotom in the next game, because of the Pokemon he brought this game, none of them were going to have very easy time with Rotom except for Azumarill. And with electric attacks all over the place from Tony, it's going to be difficult to keep Azumarill alive for very long.
Yeah, Raichu protecting itself this turn, preserving itself again this turn from the obvious attack from Manectric, and Rotom Heat coming out of its sub to fire off the overheat onto Ferrothorn. Instant one-hit knockout with that four times weakness. And now it is Mega Manectric versus Raichu, Rotom H, and Staraptor. I don't think much information is going to be given here.
No, and this has been a very difficult matchup for Jason. He hasn't necessarily played badly. He just hasn't. He's had a lot of obstacles that his team has a very difficult time with, and so he's going to have to come up with something for the next game.
Raichu is sadly the thing that is disrupting Jason's strategy the most right now, and it's going to be interesting to see how Jason's going to adjust to deal with Raichu.
But even without the electric protection, he's still not going to be able to use Manectric to knock out that Rotom with any sort of efficiency. So those two are definitely the key. Azumarill for Jason, and maybe Lantern, both can prevent. Lantern can prevent the Raichu from running with Volt Switch and can threaten water attacks on that Rotom, while Azumarill obviously also threatens water, the priority Aqua Jet onto onto Rotom.
Back right now to team preview. Of course, we just saw Tony Cheung's team, Chubby Kid with Gengar, Scizor, Gyarados, Staraptor, Rotom H, and Raichu. For those of you cannot see at home, but Jason Winya's team, Arti's team, is Talonflame, Lantern, Manectric, Salamence, Ferrothorn, and Azumarill. Of those Pokemon, which one do you think has the best chance of breaking Rotom H?
Oh, definitely Lantern. With its immunity to electric, resistance to overheat, and its ability to scald the Rotom.
Right. Lantern, never thought you'd actually hear yourself say that. Lantern is going to be an option here, and we're probably going to see Lantern come out.
Yeah. I think Azumarill is probably also an important Pokemon for Jason to bring, because it is another option to threaten Rotom and maybe threaten priority Aqua Jets onto the fairly frail Raichu.
Right, Lantern, of course, not a very common Pokemon, but it actually has made Worlds in 2010.
Yeah, it's always a Pokemon that springs up every once in a while. It's pretty unique typing and ability combination. Since Rotom Wash has become water electric, it's kind of stolen that niche, but still, when you want a water electric that is immune to electric, Lantern's your go-to Pokemon.
Right, battle about to go underway right now. Again, this is the quarterfinals of the 2014 Pokemon Video Game Regional Championships here in Seattle, Washington. Tony Cheung versus Jason Winya, two of Canada's best players today, duking it out. And there it is, Lantern and Talonflame from Winya, and Staraptor and Raichu for Tony.
Talonflame's a very interesting choice, I think, on Jason's part. Weak to the electric that was all over, maybe threatens the Gengar pretty well, but the Brave Bird's going to be resisted by Raichu and Rotom. I think he just felt he needed something to get some quick damage out.
Yeah, right now it seems like there's a new core present in the format. with flying electric leads.
Yes, as both players.
As both
that.
birds flap their wings majestically, and both lightning types just sitting there, shockingly standing there. Raichu protecting itself this turn.
Doesn't want to take a quick Scald or quick Flare Blitz. That would take it out of the match prematurely.
Ooh, there it is, the final gambit from Staraptor onto the Talonflame, and that is it. The birds are down.
And it will be a 3v3 from this point on.
3v3. Final gambit, of course, knocking out. The user knocks itself out and does damage equal to the HP that you've lost. Definitely 3 versus 3 VGC is a lot different.
It is. It's a much more offensive game. You have less chance to switch. Things like choice items and focus sash are much more powerful because you only need to take down one thing each, and your opponent has much less chance to switch and avoid your attacks.
So right now, Salamon's replacing the fallen Talonflame, and Gengar replacing the fallen Staraptor. Still haven't seen much from Lantern. Lantern has not been able to do anything yet because of that Raichu Protect. It's going to be interesting to see what Lantern has right now to be able to deal damage to Raichu.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised Tony didn't prioritize final gambiting the Lantern and its ability to take down Rotom.
I believe
strong as Rotom was last game, you'd think he would just be going for the same win condition
Lantern
again.
has too much HP for Staraptor to final gambit.
It may. Not totally familiar with Lantern's HP numbers.
Off the top of our heads, we are currently blanking on Lantern statistics. Gengar reacting to its Mega Stone to Mega Evolve into Mega Gengar again with that Shadow Tag ability to trap all Pokemon on the field that are not Ghost types. Gengar firing off a Disable onto Lantern, and that is pretty big. Hydro Pump now being disabled does not have a way for to hit Raichu. Volt Switch from Raichu onto Salamence, doing a little bit of damage, not too much to worry about exactly, but gets a free switch out.
Yeah, that's definitely an important thing. Keep it alive for later, as that Rotom H does come back in and can't Hydro Pump. And as we see that Hydro Pump go before Salamence, that means the Lantern is Choice Scarfed, and so it won't be able to use any attack next turn.
That is interesting to notice. Salamence firing off the Draco Meter onto Gengar, doing about 60%, 55% maybe, somewhere between that range. Right now, with the Scarf Lantern being disabled, he's going to have to find a way to get it out and get it back in to be able to deal with this Rotom.
But as long as Shadow Tag is there, he can't switch it, and so he's going to be forced to struggle himself down. Salamence at -2 special attack also won't be able to switch, so he's not going to have an easy time breaking this Gengar. Again, not a very good position for Jason.
Right. Shadow Tag, of course, really well known for its Perish Trapping abilities, but right now is showing off how good just not being able to have your opponent switch is.
It's definitely switching is a core mechanic of the game, and suddenly taking it out of play for your opponent can give you a huge advantage. We see the struggle.
Right, Lantern struggling into Rotom, doing... I didn't even see it move. But doing a 25% recoil to itself, and Rotom getting up a free substitute as Salamence fires off into the Protect.
And that struggle and those -2 Draco Meteors are going to have a hard time breaking that sub, especially doing it repeatedly,
Right.
as Salamence will lose even more special attack.
Definitely need to find a way to get rid of that Gengar in order to have yourself be able to switch this turn. Gengar using another Disable, and that is just painful to watch as Draco Meteor is disabled and struggling. Its struggle does hit Ghost types, does a little bit of damage to Gengar, but 50% has been dealt to itself so far, and Draco Meteor cannot work simply because of the Disable. Rotom trying to get some chip damage, even more chip damage onto the Lantern with the Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah, we'll only take one more turn of struggling now, as the 2 turns of Burn and 1 turn of struggle will knock out Lantern before it ever gets a chance to Hydro Pump Rotom.
Fire off the Hydro Pump. Of course, we always thought that Lantern was the answer, but Tony showing off how good he is at adapting. He is showing us why he is the one and only Canadian national champion. Gengar protecting itself this turn, keeping itself
Really,
on
right.
the field.
The only thing that can really go wrong for Tony here is if Gengar were to get knocked out and break the Shadow Tag lock. So as long as he keeps it alive, Jason really can't do much.
Gengar protecting itself this turn as Lantern fires off a struggle into the Protect. And right now, Lantern's just slowly getting whittled away by the Burn and the struggle recoil.
And now the Disable has worn off. Tony's going to be forced to use another Disable. Not that bad of an option, but it will open him up to some attack from
Right.
Salamence.
The problem with Lantern right now with the Choice Scarf does not outspeed Mega Gengar. That is so problematic. And just just a sad way to kind of watch Jason with Lantern.
Yeah.
With Lantern.
Yeah, one of our favorites. We were excited to see Lantern come out. But
Of course, Jason showing off that it is, in fact, Choice Scarf.
it is in fact disabled.
It is, in fact, disabled. Gengar firing off a Shadow Ball onto Lantern, getting the knockout onto Lantern.
So instead of disabling and forcing a struggle to knock it out, saving himself the struggle damage, as minimal as it might be, and just knocking the Lantern out straight away.
Firing a Fire Blast.
Oh, and a critical
hit.
That
ignoring
ignores,
that.
Yeah, it ignores the -2 special attack from the Draco Meteor, and so it does get the knockout on Gengar. But Salamence won't be able to switch now anyway because there is no Pokemon to switch to.
A little bit of deja vu as Will-O-Wisp misses the Salamence. Deja vu to Worlds, of course.
Yeah, infamous Will-O-Wisp miss
Will-O-Wisp
there.
misses. Manectric coming out to face off against Raichu and Rotom. Again, as we saw in the previous battle, Raichu just creates a core problem for Manectric.
Well, and really, neither Pokemon left on Jason's side has any chance at that Rotom without a series of critical hits. And as long as Draco Meteor is disabled, that won't even be enough. And so it may take a few turns, but we will almost certainly see Tony able to take this game with his Rotom.
Definitely not the way you want to see someone.
No, he's had a great day. A lot of really cool matches using his Lantern that we do know has Soak is his strategy with that Lantern. He is able to soak things to make them water type so that he can hit them with electric attacks. But of course, even if Raichu were to become water type or other Pokemon, Raichu would still pull away those electric attacks with Lightning Rod.
I believe you actually have experience using Raichu with Lightning Rod.
I greatly enjoy using Raichu with Lightning Rod. Any Pokemon that can totally prevent your Pokemon from attacking and keep other Pokemon safe makes a cool support Pokemon. And I like to use my Raichu with a Milk Tank.
Of course, the infamous Milk Tank, who has actually made an appearance today, according to Snake and Zach, who reportedly used Milk Tank today. But anyways, back to the action. We'll talk more about Milk Tank later. Salamence, of course, -2 right now. Can't do much. Manectric being walled by Raichu. Not exactly walled, but hidden power. I mean,
Very
base 60.
slow damage. And Manectric definitely being walled by Rotom, as even if it does carry the Overheat or Flamethrower we haven't seen yet, Ice, Electric, Fire, they're all resisted by Rotom H. It's an interesting defensive typing that totally blocks Manectric.
Of course, those are all very popular moves for Manectric to have, but right now, Tony, Chinese dude with the Great Wall of Raichu and Rotom H.
Yes.
Cannot. It's going to be interesting to see if Tony can even find a way to break it. I mean, critical hits, of course, can play a factor with the reversing the
Draco Meteor
drops.
But it will take a critical hit to break the substitute, and then another critical hit to
do damage.
Significant damage to Rotom before Rotom just sets up another substitute to block an incoming crit.
And of course, with how people usually play their Rotoms, it's probably trained to be able to survive a lot of special attacks.
Now, interesting, the time limit is going to play a factor here. That may be Jason's last hope. If he can take down Raichu before Tony can take down either Pokemon and then win a 2v1 timer, there's maybe a small chance of that.
Right, Raichu giving Salamence an encore to continue fire blasting, and of course, as you said, ooh, burn.
Oh,
that actually might change the game a little bit.
Very interesting. With 540 left, if Jason takes the full 45 seconds on every attack, he can limit this to 5 or 6 more turns, which might be longer than it will take Tony to knock out one of Jason's Pokemon if he takes liberal use of Protect.
Right now what Jason has to do is try to find the patterns in Tony's movements. Needs to read the Protects and needs to be able to avoid hitting into Raichu's Protect. As we've seen every turn so far, he's been opting to.
And even if he
change
hits into Raichu's Protect, at this point, it's 2 turns away from dying, from feigning to it due to its burn. And so he really needs to focus on keeping his 2 alive. If he can predict where this Rotom is targeting and protect it on a series of turns, he might be able to take this full timer. Though Salamence is encored and so won't be able to protect, and so Tony can
target down the Salamence in hopes of keeping it in his favor for the tiebreaker.
But
Raichu encoring this turn.
Right, he doesn't immediately start targeting that Salamence, and Raichu will not go down.
So now it is actually 2-1 in favor of Jason Winya with the clock against Tony's back. Tony needs to find a way in order to knock out one of Jason's Pokemon in order to keep it keep the tiebreaker in his favor.
Now that he knows Manectric can't use Protect, we'll probably see a Overheat pretty quickly to just take down this Manectric. One or two will do it, especially with his burn chip damage.
Right. Definitely gonna be interesting. Does Tony see that though? Does Tony see that? Hopefully he does. Hopefully he does. Salaman's firing off. Salaman's Fire Blast is pretty low on PP by now.
Yeah. He could also end up having to struggle his own Salamence. But the Encores, once these expire, obviously the Raichu was the one putting down the Encores, and it's knocked out. So once these Encores break, it will be the end of the Encores.
Right. It's gonna be interesting. This battle is a lot closer now. Arti taking his time to make his selection.
Definitely sees that his final win condition is the timer, but the thing is, as soon as you spin the full 45 seconds, your opponent will also realize exactly what you're doing, and Jason here just lets the timer choose his moves as he's Encored and only has one option anyway. Might as well take the full time.
Allowing the game mechanics to make your moves. Fire Blast going off onto the Rotom H from -2 Salamence, and of course the Hidden Power Ice going off from Manectric onto the Rotom H does not break the substitute. It breaks the substitute. That's interesting.
And I think this Overheat will probably be the end of Manectric.
The Overheat will knock out Manectric. It should knock out Manectric, and it does. Of course, now Rotom H at -2, but
at full health, the timer is now in Tony's favor. It's interesting that Manectric never Mega Evolved. It would have had more bulk with a Mega Evolution.
Right.
Probably not enough to take the Overheat no matter what, but could have helped, maybe.
Right now, the only way for Jason Winya to be able to advance to the next round, back against the wall right now, win or go home, is to fire off Draco Meters onto the Rotom H and try to get the critical hits.
Right, but I'm not even sure that one critical hit would be a knockout from himself.
Of course, Jason playing the timer right now, a bit, and it's all kind of come down to the wire right now.
Yeah. If Rotom does try to sub a sub, gets crit with Draco Meteor, it might have lower health than Salamence if this timer plays the right way. So.
Salamence firing off the Draco Meteor right now, and it does not get the critical hit on the first one.
Maybe
one more. Why not one more?
And
oh, never mind.
There's the
substitute. Pretty much clinching that victory for Tony right now.
There's another health match, but after leftovers and burn damage, Salamence clearly has less health than Rotom, and so it'll should pretty easily go in.
So right now, Jason Winya's tournament life on the line. I believe both players are just playing out the motions right now as timer expires. Draco Meteor from Salamence -4.
Yeah, -4 will not break the substitute without a crit.
Probably will not break the substitute without a crit.
And a discharge now at full power because there's no other Pokemon on the field will probably finish Salamence. And while we get under a minute,
does not finish Salamence. Remember that's -2. Right now the timer about to end on this turn. No matter what, Salamence fought admirably.
Yeah, and Jason does have more time on his timer than on the game timer, so he can stall it if he wants. But
and Salamence
bringing
the rain.
Dance.
We are in Seattle.
In rainy Seattle, and Jason's making it rain.
And Rotom, of course, just ensuring himself that he gets a little substitute action up. Substitutes again, despite already being behind the substitute. And Salamence finally succumbs to the burn damage, and Tony Chung advances to the semifinals over Jason Winya. That was an interesting battle. I really like Jason's team. It's just
both teams I really liked. The combinations there with Raichu and Perish Song and Encore and Disable, combined with Shadow Tag, all give very interesting options for Tony. Jason also obviously has his Soak and his combined with his Power Whips and Thunderbolts, and it was both very interesting teams, but one of them had to go down, and it is Tony moving on.
Who would you rather see, Raichu or Lantern?
You know, I've actually quite seen a few Raichus recently. It's kind of rising in popularity. I think Lantern is the more unique Pokemon.
Yeah. Lantern, of course, now that I see it, Walls Rotom H.
It does.
And that is definitely interesting to see. It's such a shame to see Tony. Well, it's not a shame to see it, but it was really interesting to see how Tony adjusted to Lantern and how Tony handled Lantern so well.
Yeah, he really did. He saw the threat, and within the first 2 turns, had already completely removing it from play by disabling its Choice Scarf attack and locking it in.
This just in, Randy Qua advances to the semifinals. Let me pull up the bracket. Star Metroid, Max Douglas also advances to the next round as well. He will be playing off against Chinese Dude. Currently waiting on the results between Ben DeMayan and Thomas Mifflin,
That will decide
who plays
Randy's opponent in the
Randy's
next round.
opponent.